and welcome to another Safi Brothers podcast. We'd love to welcome an amazing brother from the US, Shaykh Dr. Yasir Qadhi. Welcome to the Safi Brothers podcast.
Jazakumullah khair for having me. Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
No need for a bio. I think everyone, alhamdulillah, mashallah, I think you got one of the best series in relation to our seerah of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Mashallah, mashallah, Allah barik feek, inshallah.
So I would like to welcome you, and inshallah today is your success story, as the Safi Brothers do a whole series on the success stories heading. And inshallah, I would love to take you back to you being born in Texas.
Yes, Houston, Texas. I was born in Houston, Texas. Alhamdulillah.
Take us through that journey, mum and dad, how you ended up there. That'd be great to, I don't know much.
So my father was one of the first immigrants from Pakistan to America back in 1962. He came when there was hardly anybody else there. And he founded the first MSA, the Muslim Student Association.
Why Texas?
So he got a scholarship to study at the University of Houston. It was just like complete, random thing.
Allahu Akbar.
And there was no other, previous, or he didn't know anybody before. Like, the standard story, you land with $20 in your pocket, don't know where, he had to take a taxi to the campus, had no idea where to stay, stays in a hostel the first few days. Like literally just the stories that we hear from that time frame. So alhamdulillah, he came there, he did his master's and then PhD, got married along the way. Obviously brought my mother, I was born. Founded the first mosque, the first Sunday school, so alhamdulillah, so I was born into a family that already had a love for Islam.
So dad came to study
master's and PhD, in basically in medicine and pathology and biology. He became a university professor. So
was he married then, or
No, when he was just single.
How old?
He was, I think, 31. Wow. A little bit older, but that was how it used to work back in those days.
Wow. So it's older not to be married by then too.
Yeah, so because again, you want to go back even more, we can go, it's all very personal, but it's very relevant because my father always says that because he sacrificed for his parents, that's why Allah blessed him.
Wow.
So his parents were, they had given up everything to migrate to Pakistan. Because in 1947, there was that partition.
Yes.
And my grandfather wanted to live in a good Muslim land. So my grandfather and grandmother decided to give up everything, and it was a huge loss, because what happened in 1947 is that the Muslims were taken advantage of because the locals would not buy because they know they're going to leave.
Yes.
So you wouldn't get your money's worth. You had to just abandon or sell for pittance like nothing. So they gave everything up. They were living a middle-class life, and they ended up like pretty much in poverty when they come because everybody's an immigrant, millions. Actually, historically, the largest mass migration in human history occurred in 1947. The largest mass migration in history occurred when people migrated from both sides. So you can imagine millions of migrants coming immediately to one city. What's going to happen? So they were very, impoverished. So my father was the oldest son, out of 8 brothers and sisters. So he had to work part-time even as a teenager and then delay his education. He actually gave up medical school because they couldn't afford the fees. He got into medical school. It was his dream to be a doctor. He gave that up, right? And he kept on, he would tell us this later on, that because I gave up everything for my parents, that's why we ended up, alhamdulillah, so blessed and fortunate, even though it wasn't the case in the beginning of his life.
Look at our story. My dad's the oldest. He sacrificed everything. He was a doctor. He let it go and looked after his brothers and siblings.
So Allah does not, take any of these things in vain. Allah Azza wa Jal rewards when you give back to your family, to your people. Allah rewards this. So he keeps on saying
we
this
have
to
something
us,
in common, because my grandfather got really ill and my father was the oldest, so he had to go back and...
He didn't get married till 35,
he didn't get back.
Exactly.
Because he had to look after his family, and look after his brothers, and he had many.
And he came and left everything.
SubhanAllah.
To work in a factory.
Exactly. SubhanAllah. So it's a similar story, exactly. Just you sacrifice your family and then
it's
Allah
amazing how many of
back.
us have done that throughout the Muslim world that have lived. SubhanAllah. It's amazing that we sat here suddenly sharing that.
SubhanAllah.
Allah. So take us as a young chap yourself.
So alhamdulillah, so I mean,
how many in the family, if you don't mind me asking?
I have one brother.
That's it?
Small, yeah.
Two boys?
Yeah, two boys. Yeah, one older brother, just me and him. So,
so you're the youngest one?
I'm the younger one, yeah.
Okay, you're the spoiled one then.
Basically, yeah, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Because usually the older brother always cops the beatings, as they say.
That's true, yeah, alhamdulillah. So my earliest memories, you know, in terms of Islamic stuff, was really attending khutbahs that I just did not understand at all. Just disconnected, foreign, alien, you know, usually in Arabic. And obviously we don't speak Arabic growing up, you know.
Yeah.
And Sunday school was a chore and a bore. Did not like going to Sunday Islamic school at all, you know. So, I mean, that was one of the motivations for me that when I did become a younger man, like I wanted to know my religion. And back in the 90s, you're old enough to remember this, there was no quality education in the English language. No. There was no deep level book. There were no, you know, like ulama who could speak English fluently.
Yes.
At my understanding as a teenager, you know. 100%. There were ulama that had come to America, Egyptian, Pakistani. Yeah. And if they spoke English, like, you know, half broken, whatever.
And they had a translator.
And then also like the subjects and the topics, there's not a connection. There's not a relevance.
Correct.
Yeah. So exactly. We felt like they came from a different world to project that onto us without us understanding. And like we said, like, this doesn't really fit here.
Exactly.
SubhanAllah, yes.
So I felt this curiosity, this thirst, you know, especially going through college. I studied engineering, chemical engineering, you know. I loved chemistry and, you know, in our culture, you have to be engineer or doctor.
Exactly.
There's just no third option.
No lawyer. You didn't get the lawyer.
Maybe lawyer, accountant, but no, the default, you know, A or B is like engineer or doctor.
I think every one of our guests.
What's that certificate?
I think every one of our guests so far say that my father, mother wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant or an engineer.
Yeah, you have to do this. Like you have to. I mean, it's just you don't even think, what else can I do? Because this is something. And you know, I don't blame them. I don't blame them because they wanted success for their children. They wanted them to have stable careers, right? So again, I didn't like biology. I just couldn't imagine operating on a human body. I just hated biology. So then if there's no, you know, a medicine, so there's got to be engineering. Out of engineering, you know, actually I flirted with aeronautical engineering because I just like the idea of designing planes or whatnot. But then I said, you know what, I like chemistry and chemical engineering is a vibrant field. There's oil, there's this and that, you know. So I did chemical engineering. I graduated. I worked at Dow Chemical, which is one of the big chemical corporation plants in America and the world. So I worked at Dow Chemical for a while as an intern, you know, so meaning before graduation, intern. Alhamdulillah, in our chemical engineering department, there would always be like one student in the third year who would get an internship, the top student. I got that internship. And what that did was that it guaranteed me a job at Dow Chemical when I graduated.
Can I touch just base on that? Obviously, to be recognized to be the top tier, to be given that, were you always a person of excellence? Did you always try your best? Did you always?
Yeah, that was always ingrained in me by my parents and also by myself. Like I was the valedictorian in my high school. I was always wanted to study hard. I had ambitions as a child, but wallahi, nothing to do with Islamic studies.
Allahu Akbar.
Ambitions as a child to do something big, but not at all. It never crossed my mind.
Never.
So when was that light bulb moment that, subhanAllah, that you transitioned, let's say, from dunya to
here's
deen?
The irony that people don't believe when I say this. Even when I gave up my Dow Chemical offer, because, so let me just quickly backtrack. So I'll never forget one of my most iconic moments for me in my life that I had applied to the University of Medina in my fourth year, and I had, you know, been accepted. In July, the acceptance came, right? For August, like literally 1 month, right?
Wow.
I have to make a decision in 1 month. So I have like on my desk, the Dow Chemical offer and the University of Medina offer.
Wow, dunya and...
Like I literally, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, man, like, what am I going to do? Wow. Because I understood this is going to be, I didn't understand the depth of the decision, but I understood this is a big decision. I understood this is going to really change course for me. But here's the irony. I thought change course meant I'm going to have to study deen for a while and then come back and do another degree or, you know, be put back in engineering or MBA or something. So I thought it's going to be a temporary few years where I'm going to eke out a difficult existence and not really going to be full-time for me in the sense, remember, this is 1994 or something like that. There were no role models for me in the Western world that this is what you do when you go and study overseas and come back.
Wow.
There were no, you know, ulama that had come back and were preaching. I mean, that didn't exist. I mean, I remember 94, 95, we had just heard of Shaykh Hamza Yusuf had just come back. And we were hearing of, this is like the first American raised. But even then, he was just beginning his journey. So there was no, career. There was no money or fame or career in Islamic studies. You have to understand this point. Remember this. Yes. There was nothing. So I thought,
if anything,
exactly. So I thought I'm going to have to sacrifice my career for 5 years, 4 years, and then come back and then rehabilitate myself in the engineering field or something, And I'll have to delay my marriage. I'll have to give up my dunya, everything. I said, khair, inshallah, I want to know my deen, so I'll just go do that. So my point is, I didn't actually change career paths. I delayed in my mind at the time a career path, thinking that let me just learn the deen. As Allah is my witness, I never ever dreamt of becoming a full-time da'i and preacher and quote-unquote shaykh. Never. It's not on my agenda because there was nobody like that, is what I'm trying to say, right?
And so, subhanAllah, we spoke about that before. A lot of us, subhanAllah, are lacking, especially us in our age, we're lacking a lot of brothers to look up to or to focus on to say, I can be like them. Alhamdulillah, this is the aim of this podcast.
This is the aim of the podcast because we really, our youth are lacking that. They're looking up to these non-Muslims that really don't have, they're not in touch with our community, not in touch with what it is to be a Muslim and also have that success.
Yeah. So as a young chap, like let's say 12, 13, you went to normal school.
Yeah. How was that struggle? Because we felt that, we're Lebanese, Muslim.
Yeah. So my father got a job as the professor and then the dean of the medical college in King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah. So I went to a British expatriate school, like a elite private school, like a private school, British curriculum.
Wow.
And I went through what is called the GCEO levels at the time. So I did that. So in that time frame, alhamdulillah, I'm living in a Muslim land, but there's no like extra Islamic
How old
studies,
were you then?
No, so I did my teenage years over there.
Oh, you did your dad?
Yeah.
So you left the US at what age?
6.
So you left at 6, Saudi Arabia. Okay.
Yeah, and then coming back every year to America, staying in Jeddah. But what you need to understand in the 80s, living in Saudi Arabia as a Westerner, you are in a bubble. It's an expatriate bubble.
Yes.
You live in different places. You go to different schools. You are disconnected from, from the broader society.
That's all in Jeddah.
Yes, Jeddah. Yeah. So I didn't speak Arabic at all.
Wow.
No, not at all. I mean, like, how much is this? Yeah, but that's it.
Wow.
Because there is no interaction. You are living in an expatriate bubble.
You're right.
Where everybody around you is, expat, the buildings you're living in, the school you go to, right? So there's a huge disconnect. But I guess the positive side, I mean, because you're in a Muslim land, you're hearing the adhan and, we go to Mecca regularly because it's Jeddah. I mean, there's no drugs or alcohol easily available, at that time frame, alhamdulillah. So we had I had a beautiful childhood. I really.
So how long were you there? When did you get back to the US?
Came back after high school. So this is 1990-ish. Yeah.
So most of your childhood years you were in Jeddah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, mashallah.
Yeah.
So that would have been... Wow, so 6.
You and your brother? Both?
Yes. My brother came back way before me. He's older than me.
Okay.
My brother
Did he also follow the Islamic path?
No, he has an MBA. He's a business business consultant.
Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah.
Allah protect him.
So subhanAllah, so let's take him back. You grew up to 6 years old in America, went to Jeddah. So most of your education there. Was there a sort of a light bulb moment that got you close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or got through to the deen as a young chap? Was there a little burn in your heart that sort of started at all?
I wish I could tell you a nice, romantic story or something. Fact of the matter is...
A Cat Stevens story.
No. Fact of the matter is that Islamically speaking, I had a good childhood. My parents were very religious all the time, praying 5 times a day.
Inshallah.
I never remember a time in my life where I wasn't praying 5 times a day. So my father instilled in me salah. And eventually he encouraged me to memorize the Quran in Jeddah. So I did memorize the Quran at home.
SubhanAllah. Just
on my own, somebody would come in and help me,
Allah.
An imam would come and help me, but I did it on my own in Jeddah. And then that was about it. There was no desire or incentive at that stage. Again, at this stage, you're not really thinking of Islamic studies.
Yes.
You're just like, okay, I'm a Muslim, alhamdulillah. When I went to university, I had to make a decision. Do I really want to practice Islam or not? Yeah. Because now university, your parents can't control you.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
University, you are on your own. And it was at university that I discovered I actually enjoy being a Muslim. It brings sukoon to my heart. And at university, I got involved.
What was it that brings sukoon to your heart?
So the sense of nobility, the sense of purpose, the sense of belonging, the sense of there's a higher purpose to this dunya. And at university, I got involved with the Muslim Student Association, MSA. Do you guys have it here?
Yeah, of course
we do.
Yeah,
Of course, yeah.
I got involved with the MSA. I'd be like my 4 years at university. Most of my memories are from the MSA, not from the classes and exams.
Wow.
I was super active with the MSA. My first year.
What were you doing?
So literally the first week that I caught in, I wanted to volunteer. So they told me to, okay, khalas, you're in charge of preparing the khatib's microphone system and do that, right? So they taught me how to do that. So, literally for like all this AV stuff back then, I would be setting up the microphone, putting all the wires in, like that. SubhanAllah. And now people do it for me, but I started, I'm saying it like, so every time somebody does it for me, I said, may one day you also be on this side.
Inshallah.
I've done this as a teenager.
Allahumma barik.
And then the next year, they put me in charge of the da'wah table. So I would be every week or every 2 weeks, I think, we'd have a da'wah stall on campus, okay? Again, this is like pre-9/11 by a decade, man, 91, 92, a long time ago, So every week I'd be standing at the university main center, like the hall, the hub, and just have a big learn about Islam, discover Islam. And I'd be standing there talking with people, asking, debating, whatnot. So you kind of sort of start honing your skills about active.
So that was your sort of foundation base.
Exactly, yeah.
Because
yeah.
that's like, mashallah, like you're very well spoken. You must have had a lot of practice. So we've seen you online.
I'm telling you, growing up, I was an introvert. Go ask any of my friends back in middle school. I was a shy, geeky, nerdy kid. I'm still geeky and nerdy, but I was a shy, introverted kid. I didn't have the confidence to speak in public. But university begins to change, And when you're now, on the limelight, like, my first khutbah also, that's also a funny story that I was 17, 18, and the khatib canceled at last minute. We found out there's no khatib coming. So the president of the MSA says, we don't have khatib, you give the khutbah. I'm like, I've never given a khutbah. He goes, well, you have to. We don't have a khutbah. You have to give the khutbah. Wow. So I literally was put on the spot, on the spot, give a khutbah right then and there. I mean, I had to just prepare whatever I could and, eke a khutbah out of it. But subhanAllah, and you realize, well, actually it's pretty effective. People are appreciating it and whatnot.
Allah,
because again, you're speaking in their language, right?
Yes.
You know the issues that are
addressing.
Yeah, this has been, I think, one of the main reasons why people like us have had such success is not because we're more pious or more knowledgeable. No, it's because we're more relevant.
Yes.
We understand the issues and I know what needs to be said because I'm also one of you. I'm also living in the same society,
Yes.
And so being active and then, being involved in inviting shuyukh and ulama. So we used to invite, preachers to come and, at that time there weren't really like ulama per se, but you had like Siraj Wahaj, and Jamal Badawi.
Yes,
these were activists.
Yes.
May Allah bless them. I owe a lot to them. We knew that they weren't like, bona fide scholars, but they inspired us with confidence and love.
Yeah.
And it's just there's something that needs to be done for the sake of the ummah. So those 4 years, it kind of sort of like gave me a taste that I need to be more active in my faith. And I mean, I've said this story multiple times. I'll say it on your podcast as well. One day in particular, I remember something that really it has remained with me forever. So for some weird reason, I don't know why, I would sleep on the floor as a teenager. I wouldn't sleep on my bed. I would just sleep on the floor. I just have a light mattress there, and just a light, actually, not even mattress, just a thing there. So I had to sleep on the floor, and my books would all be on the floor as well. Okay, and I was lying down, and I saw my books piled up, organic chemistry and differential equations and whatnot, physics, and like all these books piled up, And alhamdulillah, I'm an A student. I graduated, whatever, cum laude, whatever the thing is. I got all that stuff. Alhamdulillah, straight A student, everything there. And I just kind of felt, I've mastered all of these books and I don't know the Quran.
Allah.
Wow.
I've memorized the Quran. I don't know the Quran.
Yes.
This one book, the Quran, and I don't know what it means. I don't understand Arabic.
Allah.
And I felt a sense of shame, I'll be honest. Like all of this I know, and I don't know the kalam of Allah Azza wa Jal, Just felt like, what am I doing?
So that's the emptiness.
So it's like, I just felt, what am I doing? Like, how is this? Like, And subhanAllah, in the process, I heard of a university. Again, you have to realize 1992, 93, nobody had heard of University of Medina. Nobody had heard of this. Is a very different world, right?
Yes.
It just so happened I had met somebody who had stayed there for a year and then was no longer there. We heard about it. This is a University of Medina, studies advanced and whatnot. So I said, khalas, I want to go there. Medina, come on, how can you not, you know? So I for the Dow Chemical I worked, I got a certain amount of money. That same money, I spent it all on a plane ticket to go apply to Medina.
Allahu Akbar. Everything.
Back then, come on, man. Like, I don't have any money, you know, and, you know, like I didn't want to tell my parents.
You didn't tell your parents?
That's another story. I'll tell you as well in a bit because
Allah.
Look,
so you made the decision.
Yeah, I
wholeheartedly. Were you on campus, sleeping on campus?
No, wait. I applied to Medina. Application takes months.
Okay.
So I did an Umrah trip. They knew I'm going for Umrah. They didn't know I'm applying to Medina.
Oh.
Okay.
Mashallah. But you already had planned.
I had already planned. That was the reason I was going.
Wow. You wanted to see.
I wanted to see. I wanted to go there. Yeah. So I went into the office and, you know, put in my application directly to the director. Directly. I went to his office, you know. And I mean, I remember he was like very impressed that I'm engineering and Hafid and everything coming from it. He had, obviously from America, that hadn't happened before, right? I was told by somebody, I'm not sure, I was told that I'm the first born Muslim from America to graduate from Medina. Most of the people before me were converts.
Wow.
So the first like born Muslim in America who then decided to study in Medina.
Right? Wow.
So the director was, or the dean of acceptance had actually studied in America in the 70s, so he spoke some English. So he was very impressed. So basically, I didn't know at the time, but got accepted right then and there. I didn't know at the time, but later on I found out, you know. So anyway, I wish he had told me back then. I could have planned better, but no, you know what I'm saying?
SubhanAllah.
Yeah. So then I decided I want to go and you know, study in Medina, but I didn't know if I got in or not. And then the Dow Chemical offer came. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll take this. Alhamdulillah, it's here. And then before I answered that one, I got the acceptance from Medina. So now I have the choice to make, alhamdulillah, and the rest, as they say, is history. But when I did make that choice, like I said, my niyyah at the time was, I guess I'll go study a few years and then I'll have to come back and start from scratch. Allah kept on opening doors, and He's still opening